some questions.
Yeah, bouncing off of Mr. Deegan's point where the documentary is still not available to be watched in Japan. In 2017, when you chose to go public with your story after the police dropped the investigation, it was considered groundbreaking, especially within the context of Japanese society, where values like social harmony and the ideal of futsu, which is being ordinary or conforming, can make it difficult to speak out. Was there a particular moment when you felt the weight of these cultural expectations? And if so, how did you find the strength to keep on moving and to step forward despite them?
Yes, especially a country like Japan, where there's such a strong norm against sexual violence, and we have this saying called "deru kugi wa utareru," sticky nail has to be hammered. So you shouldn't be different. You shouldn't be speaking up about something. But I was devastated. Anyways, I felt so hopeless in my own society, and also felt guilty that I was so ignorant to live in such a society where they had a 110-year-old rape law, which I didn't even know until it happened to me. And there were so many moments that I felt like I can't go on with my life, but I was lucky enough to connect with other stories. I went to one of the World Press photo exhibition, and there was one exhibition about sexual violence in American military. And there was a photo of the girl who passed away, who decided to take her own life away, but it was her diary. And what she was written in a diary was something that I was screaming from inside of me. I felt like I was her. And then I saw her father standing in the middle of her room. I saw his back and I could see my dad in it. And that moment I felt like I don't know what my personal life will be, but if I'm ready to, end it, I can do this. I can try to do whatever I'm believing in storytelling, in journalism. So that was the moment that I had no more fear about whatever happened to my personal life. Of course, my family was different, so my family tried to stop me in so many ways because they were so afraid for me and for them. So I felt bad for them because they didn't sign up for it. But yeah, that's how I decided to go forward.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm so sorry, I want to first begin by citing you, but I really liked your words. It has been a long time, but even little by little, a big change is happening. The scene I am witnessing is completely different from the one I used to see before. Those were your words in front of the courtroom the day the judge believed you. That was 2019. How would you describe the scene in Japan and also worldwide today?
I see changes. Change happens very slowly, but even we had a 110-year-old rape law before, it changed. Finally, now in Japan, let's say the male victim can claim rape. Before it was only for women, and in 2023, our age of consent was 13 years old. Think about what you were doing when you were 13. Did you know about consent? I mean, yeah. So now it's 16. So it is updating slowly. And I feel like how media is treating these cases are changing. They're highlighting this issue more. So I believe it's changing. But Japan didn't have a big Me Too movement. There were moments, and that's still happening. But I believe these story sharing are opening up and, let's do the other to know what's happening in our society and what we need to update in our legal situation.
So just to build on that, what you said about men being able to be considered victims of rape under Japanese law since 2017, I think. Throughout the documentary, there was a positive portrayal of some men, as well as some of the highly unpleasant responses you got from other women that were shown. Was this for you an important part of your message about the sort of systemic oppression and silence around the issue?
Can you repeat the question again?
So you, throughout the documentary, there was a positive portrayal of men. Was this important for your message?
Yeah, there were quite active young politicians who tried to speak up to the power to find out, and there were also doormen and investigator who could maybe lose the job but then decided to witness what happened to my case. So for them, for me, they're a big heroes, you know. And sexual violence case, it's really hard because it's often happen behind a closed door, and that's what the police and prosecutor was telling me. It's in a black box. We don't know what happened. You only know. But that's not true. There's so many things happening before and after. So all these people who witnessed before and after were really helpful in the end, and I'm very grateful for that. Yeah.
Previously, you've mentioned that you talk a lot about sexual violence, but not much about power corruption, dynamics of power. What systems do you believe most protect these abusers, and how can the conversation become more centralized, do you think?
That's a big question. I mean, I'm sorry, but like, who's the president today in America? You know, he had so many allegations too. It's about the power corruption. And when I had an opportunity to talk at EU Parliament last year, I heard there are cases within an EU Parliament, but it's really hard to speak because it's not just about sexual violence, it's about the power corruption. But we always have to speak together. It's otherwise there's no way we can find out what really happened. So watch my film. That's one solution. That's how I really want to talk about, not about sexual violence, but the power corruption in it, and that's what it makes so hard to speak about. But this is great start, and now you can all start speaking up about, you know, even it's not about sexual violence, but you do witness power corruption from your teacher, from your father, mother. I'm sure it's happening a lot, and just to try to think about it within in your circle, I think you can find something that unjust to you, and maybe that's a good starting point.
I know these incidents happen mostly behind closed doors, and you have seen how first-hand public narratives can be twisted or even weaponized. How do you think survivors and activists can protect their stories from being co-opted by extremists or political agenda?
That's my everyday fight. Since I went public in 2017 and I got so many online troll and threats, and I had to leave Japan. And yeah, it was awful. And for many years I tried to not look at it. But then one day I was told from this high school student, she said she was groped and she wanted to find the support or helpline online, but then she found this online troll towards me, to Shiori, and saw the comment, nasty comment for the survivor, and she decided not to seek for the help. And that moment I felt like it's not just me who I can be silenced, who can just turn myself around and see, you know, ignore this. People who have experienced something similar, they can take it as well. And the worst part about in our digital world is that it's like almost digital tattooed. It stays there forever. So I decided to take a legal action towards to it, to just show this is not okay. And for me, it's almost unstoppable. I receive it every day, and the way I only can do is to tell myself how I can define, making this film was also a hustle. As a survivor, as a director, as a daughter, as a sister, and I got many names online as well, and I was confused what to do. And one day, there's a beautiful, beautiful island in Japan called I forgot the name of the island. Let's make it secret because it's very secret, beautiful island. I will tell you if you want to know later if I remember. Oh yeah, Yakushima Island. It's a World Heritage, UNESCO Heritage, Nature Heritage. Anyways, I went there and there is a hot spring next to the beach. And I always wanted to try to do skinny dipping. And I thought this is my chance because there's onsen, the hot spring, and the beach at night. It's public. So I did it, and it was dark night, no moon. And when I swim naked in dark water, that was the first moment for a long time that I felt like I'm just living creature. Doesn't matter in this world. I'm a woman, I'm a man, or I'm a daughter, or whatever. And at that moment, I really felt like I'm the only one who I can define myself. So since then, it's hard to have these online trolls, but it doesn't really affect me. But of course, I have to take action because it can affect others. But what I want to tell, if you are suffering from online troll, I want to tell you that it feels hard. It's hard, especially I think when you're in school or when you're in certain community, because that's where you survive, right? And how you can survive if all these rumors and trolls are circling around that place. For me, how it helped me was that I knew there were other places for me. So for me, I could have escaped to UK from Japan. I was lucky enough to be able to escape to different community. So please always do remember there's always other community that doesn't care about your troll, that doesn't matter about, whatever the online people say. So for that really helped me to believe in that and also try to always define myself by myself.
Thank you. So when you were in the UK, there was a point where you were largely only speaking English, and despite it not being your mother tongue, you told the New York Times that in Japanese you never felt like you had a language to be angry or emotional in as a woman. How would you describe the role of language in your ability to keep on moving forward?
Anyone speaks Japanese here in this room? Yay! Good. I think then you might know, but the time when I woke up from the assault, I told the offender, the guy who was raping me, saying, please stop, やめてください. Because I grew up being taught that I have to be polite to older people or men. So I had a mindset that I have to be polite, so it was default for me. And as a woman, Japanese speaker woman, we don't really have a way to directly tell someone to do something. And if I speak like a man, I can try to do it, but it doesn't work like that. It's so hard to describe. But so what I had to do that moment, I had to switch my mind, say, because that's the only way I could have say. And I realized that in Japanese language, I didn't know how to be angry, how to be emotional, how to be direct. And it is one of the problem, I think, that we are not being able to openly communicate about this issue in Japan. So sometimes I gather my friends, girlfriends, to teach them how to say. I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't say this F word here, but we need to have a word, strong word, because in Japanese we have these things called iyayo mo suki no uchi, meaning no means yes, I like it. And so it really have to be crystal clear what it means to say yes and no. And that's what we need to work on more on our consent in our law. Our consent doesn't really, the consent doesn't matter in our rape law yet. So that's a big homework we still have.
Going back to your documentary, in making Black Box Diaries, were there moments when the camera offered protection and other times where it felt like raw exposure?
Not really. It was filmed by my friends mainly, so they were like witnessing what was happening in front of me. So I never felt like I was filmed at shooting at, fortunately, yeah.
You said it took 4 years to edit the film. What did you find to be the most challenging part of the process?
So we had over 450 hours of footage. And it was some of the footage I didn't even remember. It's amazing how trauma works. It makes you forget. And it was really hardcore way of exposure therapy in a way that I have to face what I wish to forget. Yeah, it was challenging. But what was more challenging was that I wanted to tell the story as a survivor. And I didn't know how much emotion is okay to tell as a journalist. So the dilemma was quite big. But I had amazing textbook for me, who I heard who's coming to this school, Wad. She made film called For Summer. She's a Syrian journalist. She survived the war, she gave a birth during the war, and she documented everything and made a film about it. So her film really encouraged me. It's okay to tell the personal story. So yeah, I had a many struggle. Which hat do I wear? But because of her story and other amazing film that I watched, it gave me strength in the film. It's possible to tell your own story. And in fact, this film was nominated for this year's Oscar. So we were 5 films. We didn't win, but 4 films out of 5 were all done by director telling their own stories. You know, so I think it's today's world. It's really necessary to start speaking your own story, and I think it's your weapon because you know what's happening around you the best.
When the documentary came out, watching yourself in years of footage must have been emotionally layered. Was there a moment you saw something in yourself on film that surprised you or even changed how you remembered it?
Yes, there were one shot that I wish I didn't remember, and my editor discovered this film. It was the iPhone diary, video message towards my family. I was trying to take my own life away. I forgot that I recorded it, and my editor found it from my iPhone. And I didn't want to put it. First of all, I didn't want to show it to my family. I survived. But then, alongside with that footage, I found another shot of the video, me waking up at the hospital. I was already filming waking up, and I had to ask myself, what kind of person am I? You know, just survive and waking up and start filming? Crazy. But that says a lot that it's not that I want to die, I want to survive, I want to tell the story, but so it was a hard decision to put, but I decided to put it all together, both of the footages.
Despite all these negative experiences, you've repeatedly said that the documentary was a love letter to Japan. Could you share what this means to you?
You know, if I wouldn't care about our really medieval-ish law and patriarchal society, I wouldn't make the film. I would move out and just live happily in different place. But because I believe by storytelling we can change something slowly, I believe once I throw the ball, once I speak up, the conversation will start. So I'm believing in storytelling so much, and hopefully, I know this film is not yet screened in Japan, but hopefully one day it's going to happen and be able to, talk about it.
So thank you. And you say that being a journalist is a major part of your coping mechanism and drive for speaking out. When and how did you first decide you really wanted to do it as a career, being a journalist?
So, when I was 15, I had opportunity to study abroad. And guess where I was? Kansas. Thank you for laughing. Sorry if anyone is from Kansas. But I was so drawn into, American TV show, Laguna Beach, OC, and all the, West Coast lifestyle. And on my resume, I said I love animals and nature, and they put me in Kansas. And my experience in Kansas was like, hey, it's middle of America. They call it heart of America. My school, I tried to introduce myself with my poor English, but they're like, oh, you're from Japan, which part of China you're from? That was the start. And I did realize how information can shape people. So I start watching news and I start feeling, wow, how different what we learn. So that was the moment when I decided to become a journalist.
And as you've mentioned previously, as we witness a global trend of backlash against feminist and human rights movements, even in countries such as the US, how do you see your role evolving as a journalist and mostly an activist? How do you see your role evolving as a journalist or as an activist?
Throughout these trolls, you mean? The
backlash against
backlash.
feminist ideals and human rights movements. Just global
You
trend.
guys having such a difficult questions that I can't even answer. I mean, I'm fighting every day still, and no one get used to it, right? All these words towards you. But again, how I can, no one can define me. I'm the only one who I can define myself, and I'm very proud of my work, what I do, and so that's the only thing. It's unfortunate that I feel like I don't have a space to be able to talk yet in Japan, but I believe it's gonna happen. It's gonna take some time. Change, it takes time. It's slow, but I'm believing in it. And backlash, I never get used to it, but it means something. If there's no backlash, people don't care. Backlash meaning people don't want to change, or there is something. So if we see it that way, I think that's something.
Okay, and with
Thank
that,
you so much.